Welcome back to Inside, the show where every week I tell a short story that brings real psychology research closer to the life you're actually living. Like a diary that did its homework, let's take a peek inside. We were walking towards an empty football field outside the city center. It was about 11:30 p.m., so we used the flashlights on our phones to see where we were going. I'd been to this field before, but only ever in daylight, during events, and I didn't know what it looked like with the sun gone. Considering we'd already spent the morning playing golf and the afternoon watching a solar eclipse, it's funny how it felt like the day wasn't over yet. We weren't far from the car, and every now and then a pair of headlights would beam across the field, painting the dry grass of light. We were excited, talking over each other, tripping over our own feet. None of us had seen a meteor shower before, but something itched in the back of my mind. We were alone. Did no one else want to watch it? We were only 5 minutes away from the city. Were we even going to see any stars? We couldn't wait to find out. A few more steps into the field, and the four of us found a spot and sat. We talked a little bit more about the meteor shower, wondering if we could catch one on camera. Then, half jokingly, one of my friends swung his hand up in the sky just as a single meteor tore through it. To say we celebrated would be an understatement. We cheered and laughed like our favorite team had just scored. Now that we knew what to look for, we laid down, one by one. There were so many dots in the sky, each one blinking away, but after that first meteor, they weren't anymore. We saw things move, but they weren't stars. We guessed maybe satellites? Cutting across the sky much faster than everything else. Still, we'd seen one already. How long could the next take? We kept our eyes peeled, checking our peripheral vision for anything that might resemble a shooting star. Every now and then, someone would catch a glimpse of movement that vanished before the rest of us could see. Missing one stung more than it should have, so we all lay down facing roughly the same direction. That didn't stop my friends from cheering when another meteor cut through the sky. I say my friends because I was on my phone, learning that the meteor shower was at most active between 2 and 4 a.m., and missed it completely. It became a running joke. By the third time, I learned my lesson and put my phone away. As it got closer to midnight, fewer cars passed, and by 12:30, the road beside us had gone silent. It was darker now, and the meteors had slowed to almost nothing. Someone suggested we head home, sleep, and come back closer to peak hours. But we were too comfortable in the grass to agree or object, so we just let the idea hang in the air. Then, as the cold started creeping in and going home began to sound better, I heard rustling in the grass. I'd assumed we were alone out there, and for a second, that assumption got the better of me. I sat up fast, found my phone in the dark, and swept my flashlight across the field, blinding my friends in the process. Sorry. All I could see was dry brown grass, until I pointed the light straight ahead and saw what was making that noise. It wasn't human, it was a fox. It seemed to be sneaking around us, curious but careful, never getting too close. I didn't know if foxes were hostile to people, and I didn't want to find out, so I kept my light on it. My friends started talking about it, and a few moments later, it hurried off, probably wondering why four humans were lying in the dark, open field. After it scurried off and I laid back down, the stars felt different. They looked the same, practically nothing had changed, but I felt like I was moving with them. I felt my hands against the ground, the wind against my face. Something in me was starting to settle, all the way down to the smallest piece. The carbon atoms that made the Earth were the same ones that made me. Thousands of light years away, those blinking stars were made of the same stardust I was. Fresh air had never tasted so good. Psychologists call this the small self, the feeling of being smaller than everything around you and somehow closer to it. The meteors we set out to see, the ones we rented a car and stayed up half the night chasing, turned out to be the bonus. What I was actually looking for had been there the whole time. The stars that already painted the sky, the friends that I got to lie next to. I don't know how long we lay there after that, long enough that the cold really settled into my back, into the grass beneath us. I don't remember who brought up going home again, but I was the first to sit up and brush the dry grass off my hoodie. It was time. We patted ourselves down, checking for phones and car keys. I stood up too fast and my legs had gone stiff from the cold ground. I turned back once, flashlight on, and saw my own shape still pressed into the grass I was leaving behind. Then I swept the light across the field, the same way we'd first seen it, empty and dark, before we made it ours for a couple of hours. That's when the sky opened up. Not one streak, but three, at the same time, tearing across in different directions like they'd been let go on purpose. Three lines through the dark, right as we were about to walk away. For a second, none of us said anything real, just noise. Just four people pointing at the same patch of sky. Then, it was gone. We never saw the shower at its peak. Never went back at 2 or 4 or at all. We walked back to the car with our heads up high, flashlights off, letting our eyes adjust to the dark the whole way there. And that brings us to the end of this week's Insight. Thank you for spending your time here, and I hope you learned something helpful. If you did, the best way you can support is to tell a friend about the show. You can also subscribe wherever you listen. And if you have the time, feel free to check out the Substack for more content such as artwork. But until then, remember that there's always more inside.